of the church and start making our own way. And start deciding that we want to be better Christians. And we want to gain the same spirituality that everybody else has. But what happens is we're comfortable. We're comfortable. We're comfortable sitting back. You know, I go ahead and I say, hey, Sister Miriam, here, take a part. Me? Me? You sure? You sure you don't want Kevin to do it? He sings a lot better than me. He can read the word a lot better than me. You sure? And that's how we react. When if you're a person of God, if you're a Christian, you should desire to do these things. Now, I'm not saying everybody's the best singer in the world and everybody should get up here and sing. Far be it from me, because I can't sing for nothing. That's why I sit in the corner by myself so nobody can hear me sing when the service is going on. But I know that if you come up here wholeheartedly and you give what God has from the bottom of your heart, God is going to bless you. But, you know, a lot of us have a talent and we bury it. And we go ahead, and we know that in the Word, the Bible talks about the one that buried his talent. What he got, there was ones that buried it, they used their talent, they multiplied it. And there was one that he buried his talent. And a lot of us Christians today are comfortable with burying our talent, burying what God has given us, because we can just take from the other talents or get a portion of what the talent that somebody else has. You know, Sister Jessica sang today, and that just touched my spirit. That just touched me. I feel so much better today. You know, and we're just comfortable with that. And it's almost become a routine. It's superstitious. I'm going to go to church today because I have to, and I had a really bad week, so I know that on Sunday I'm going to feel a little bit better. And it's like you just get recharged enough battery for the next couple days. And then instead of saying, you know what, I'm tired of moping around. I'm tired of being depressed. I'm tired of being angry. I'm tired of letting everybody's problems become my problems. I'm tired of always being upset with everybody. I'm tired of all these negative things happening in my life. I need to change in my life. I need to seek God so that I can go forward in a positive way. If you don't have Christ in your life truly, you don't have positivity. You don't have a positive outlook on life. You know, things come up, problems happen, but you know at the end of the day, everything's going to be okay because God is with you. And people can say what they want to say. People can do what they want to do against you. But at the end of the day, you know that God has your back. But what happens is we have become Christians. A lot of us have become Christians that we're so superstitious that we don't know what to do when the problem arises. You know, that person talked bad about me. Man, I'm going to slap her in her face. She'll say one more word to me. You know, and that's how we react. Instead of saying, you know what, take a second. It's like I tell Miriam sometimes, take a deep breath, calm down, analyze the situation. Jesse's laughing because he knows it's true. Say your prayer, read the word, do something. But you can't allow yourself to be taken out of character because of the situation that's presenting itself in front of you. And that's what happens. But that's because we have become comfortable with just receiving somebody else's blessing on Sunday and not looking to strengthen ourselves as Christians. And, you know, a lot of times we're comfortable with hearing the word of God from the men and women of God or these preachers that come out from somewhere else. You know, not too long ago, I was in a service and I was bothered in my spirit because supposedly there was a special preacher coming from somewhere far away. And the guy was preaching, and I don't really think people quite understood or captured the message that he was preaching about. And he was giving a message about Christians that are, or people that are not really there spiritually. And his message was more along the lines of, if you find yourself slipping or you've backslidden a little, that God is here for you. And in the church, almost 90% of the church went up for prayer. And I said, are they going up for prayer because they are in that situation? Or are they going up for prayer because they just like that the man of God is going, banging the thing and throwing the water everywhere? Or is that what they're really focusing on? And I think that's what bothered me the most about the situation. And I prayed to myself, I said, Lord, be with these people, reveal yourself to these people, because I know that they're men and women of God. And he's talking about a restoration prayer and restoring you as a Christian. And I said to myself, man, I don't quite think these people are understanding what he's preaching about, or they're just caught up in the mix. And what that is a superstitious thing. Oh, the preacher from Puerto Rico is coming today. And oh my, I got to be the first one there because the preacher from Idaho is coming today. And if I don't get that word, I'm going to be lost for another year until he comes back. Not knowing that same word can be given to you if you got down on your knees and say, Lord, give me a word today. Give me something that's going to strengthen my life, that's going to change my life. And the Lord gives it to you, and you open the word and you find something that restores you, reinvigorates you, and changes you as a person. But again, we've become superstitious Christians. And we want to go ahead and say, I got to wait for Gigi Avila or Joel Osteen to come so that somebody can put hands on me and I can change. And there's nothing wrong with listening to those people preach, because they have good word. And they're men of God. And those are women of God. I know Miriam likes to get up and listen to those preachings on Sunday. And that's great. And I like to listen to the preachings too of certain people. And that's great. But when you go ahead and you make it to a point where now you can't receive nothing unless it's coming from Joel Osteen. Oh no, if it's not from Joel Osteen, I don't want to hear it. Then it's not a matter of you receiving the word. It's becoming a superstitious thing. Now, okay, I can only get a word of God because it comes from Joel Osteen. And a lot of us are like that. And God is calling us to be better Christians, to change our mind frame, to reform ourselves, the way of thinking, and to get out of that place so that we can work in the things of God. Because what winds up happening is, if you're looking for somebody else's blessing, you're not reaching your own blessing, so you can't bless others. So the reason why the pastor can bless us is because he's looking for his blessing. And then he's in partaking and giving it, help sharing it with us. But if we're not looking for our blessings, how can we share it with anyone else? My desire, my goals, the thing that in my heart is to spread the gospel, to reach as many souls as possible and give them the joy that I have. To give them the truth that I have. That's why, we decided to go ahead and say, let's go ahead and go to Norfolk. And I don't care if it's 2, 3 people, 4 people that show up. I know that I give the word, and Miriam gives the word, Elias gives word, Jessica gives word, because that's something that is placed in our heart. Out of the love of our heart, we give that word. And you know what's going to happen? Eventually, we're all going to have to answer for these things. We're going to sit before God, and God's going to say, Clint, what did you do with the talent that I gave you? Did you spread the gospel the way I knew that you could? Did you spread the gospel the way that you know that you could? Or are you going to say, oh yeah, I was cool with it, but the pastor got it. The pastor got it. The pastor got it. I'm good. I'm good as long as the pastor got it. Or are we saying, yes, Lord, you know what? I was there for the calling. Whenever you called me, and I'm just using you as an example. But, am I going to go ahead and say, yes, Lord, when you called me to preach the gospel, I preached the gospel. The other day, I had to transport an inmate, and it was just me and the inmate in the car, and he started talking to me about his sentencing or whatever, and he told me, on the way here, on the way to my sentencing, I saw my wife and my kids in the car. They didn't see me, but they were parked right next. They were stopped at a red light, and I could see them. And now I'm not going to be able to see them for the next 7 years. That's the last time. And I couldn't even say hi to my own kids. And something inside of me said, you know what? You need to give that man the gospel. And it was just me and him in the car. And I said to him, you know what? Even though your family abandons you, people abandon you, God can lift you back up from that. In your alone time, start reading the word. Because he told me, I don't have nothing to live for now. And I said, yes, you do. You got 7 years, but that's not a lifetime. You can find God. You can find peace. And then you can change who you are as a person so that when you get back out and you go back to your kids and your family, they can see the change in you. But it's up to you to make that decision. And the whole ride, I just preached the gospel to him. And I said to him when I left, I said, I know this is difficult. I'm sure this is difficult for you. But just know that God can lift you up in your time of trouble. Just find a word, get a Bible, and in your alone time, just pray, read the word, and ask God to give you a new strength. And he looked at me and he said, thank you. Because I just needed somebody to talk to. I needed somebody to hear some words. And I said, you know what? When you find God, he's always going to be there to listen to you. And you know what's the best thing about it? He's going to answer you back. So, it's in those times that we as Christians, we have to heed the call. And sometimes in when you least expect it. I just showed up to work that day. And, that the Lord called me to do that. So these are things that you have to think about. John 4, John chapter 4, verse 23 and 24 says, "Yet a time is coming and has now come when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for they are kind of worshipers the Father seeks." God is spirit, and his worshipers must worship in spirit and in truth. When we know that what the word says and what God has called us to do, and we don't do it, then we are not worshiping in truth. When we come to church just to come and not worship in truth, we're conducting ourselves in a ritualistic superstition. We believe if we act and say things that God will automatically give us what we want. How many of us would appreciate going to work and not being paid? If your boss said, "Good job, but you're good. Don't worry about it. There's no pay this week. Go home." How many of us would be upset? I know I would. But in reality, a lot of us act that way. We come to the church. We expect God to give, and we're not giving back. We're not giving back to the church. We're not giving back to help the pastor. We're not giving back anything to the church. We're just coming to fill a spot. We're just coming to sit in a seat. And that's why a lot of the churches are the way they are today. Because we're comfortable with just letting the 3 or 4 do the work. And I'll just sit back and watch them do it. I'm good. As long as I see other people coming in, obviously they're doing the right job. But, you know, if your boss said to you, "You know what, no pay this week," you'd be furious, right? Don't you think that's how God will feel with us? Every time he says, "Okay, Miriam, now I need from you to do my work." And "Oh, wait, hold on, I'm too busy right now. Oh, wait, hold on, I can't do it today. I can't do it today, maybe tomorrow." But no, he's a merciful God. And he says, "Oh, okay, all right. I guess I'll just use somebody else." God has called us to be fishermen of men, but we are content with us. We are content with the feel of other people's blessing. That is why, like I said, the church is in the state that it is today. It is surviving off the true prayers of the few that continue to focus on God. We have chosen just sit back, and that is not what God has chosen us to do. We have to change how we do things and put that step forward into going somewhere in our Christianity. Set goals and accomplish those goals. How many of us go to work and we get a job and we say, "You know what, I'm going to work in this job and never get a promotion"? How many of us show up at a job and have that mind frame? "You know, I like this job so much and I'm never going to get promoted. I'm good right here. I'm good." How many of us do that? Nobody, right? Nobody goes into a job and says, "You know what, for the next 20, 25 years of my career, I'm going to sit at this desk and that's going to be me." So how come a lot of us are comfortable with that in our Christian walk? We got 10, 15 years in the same spot. The bench, the seats are already conformed to our body type. It's like one of those mattresses that you see on TV. They're the foam posit mattresses that it takes the shape of your head. The bench has already got the shape of you. The shape, and we're just comfortable with that. We're comfortable with sitting in the seat and just being there. Because you know what? We have become superstitious Christians. You know, I got to sit in my seat. And God forbid if somebody sits in your seat. God forbid. Your whole service is ruined now. Because you know why? We're superstitious. So now I don't feel comfortable if I have to sit in another seat because that person knows that that's my seat. And how dare they sit in that seat because I always sit in that seat. And if a visitor comes, why didn't the usher tell them that I normally sit there or sit them somewhere else because that's my seat? And our whole service is ruined. It's done. And we laugh about it. But you know why we laugh about it? Because these are things that we've thought about before. You know, if you don't, I used to be like that. I used to be like that in our old church. You know, if I didn't sit in my seat, it was like, Eliah knows that that's my seat. Why Eliah sitting in my seat? I'm going to punch Eliah when we get out of the church. And that's the mind frame. You already taking the blessing away from yourself because you're somewhere else with it. And a lot of us are like that. A lot of us are like that. And you see, I started off the message and I said the superstitious Christians, and I can see in everybody's face where they were like, "Okay, not me. That ain't me." And now by the end of it, people are like, oh, looking around like, "Oh, snap. Maybe it's Jesse, but it's kind of me too." Or I think that Miriam does that, but I do the other one. And the reason why, you know what, God placed this message in my heart is so that people can recognize that we need to always grow further. We need to always be seeking